Sir, I'm going to need you to step away from the stove. This kitchen is for professional chefs only. Julian Hayes didn't look up from the copper saucepan where he was reducing a Bordeaux demi-glace with the precision of a surgeon. His hands moved with practiced grace, adjusting the flame with one hand while whisking with the other. Sir, did you hear me? The voice grew sharper, more insistent. I said step away. Now, have you ever been so underestimated that people couldn't see the mastery right in front of them? What happens next will redefine everything you thought you knew about power and respect. Marcus Thornton, senior food critic for Culinary Excellence magazine, had arrived at Maison Hayes 20 minutes early for his reservation. His reputation preceded him. One scathing review could close a restaurant within months. One 5-star rating could create waiting lists 6 months deep. But right now, he was staring at something that offended him more than overcooked risotto. A black man in simple chef whites, working the main station in one of Manhattan's most exclusive kitchens. "Excuse me," Marcus called to the maitre d', his voice carrying across the dining room. "Why is there a line cook working the main station? Where's Chef Laurent?" Julian set down his whisk with deliberate care. The sauce was exactly where it needed to be. 90 seconds from perfection. Around him, the kitchen staff had gone silent. 12 chefs, all watching, all knowing, but Marcus Thornton didn't know. And that ignorance was about to cost him everything. But what Marcus didn't realize was that every chef in that kitchen was holding their breath for a very different reason. The morning had started like any other at Maison Hayes. Julian arrived at 5:30 a.m., as he had every day for 8 years since opening this flagship location. He'd tasted the morning's deliveries personally, the Dover sole from his supplier in Maine, the heirloom tomatoes from his farm in upstate New York, the black truffles from his connections in Piedmont. "Morning, chef." His sous chef Antoine had greeted him. "The Times critic is coming tonight. Should we prepare the signature tasting menu?" "We prepare every menu like it matters," Julian had replied quietly. "That's the only way this works." What Antoine didn't mention was the other reservation. Marcus Thornton, 7:30 p.m., party of 4. The critic, who had never given a black-owned establishment more than 3 stars. The man who'd written, "While the food shows technical competence, one wonders if true culinary artistry requires a certain cultural refinement that cannot be taught." The coded language was clear to everyone in the industry. And tonight Marcus would be judging Maison Hayes, the restaurant that had earned 3 Michelin stars in record time, the establishment that had revolutionized modern French cuisine with African and Caribbean influences that critics called bold when they were being generous and confused when they weren't. But Julian didn't know Marcus Thornton would arrive early, didn't know the critic would walk past the hostess stand, push through the kitchen doors uninvited, and find him working the station in his simple whites instead of the designer chef's jacket hanging in his office. What Marcus saw next made him do something that would destroy his 30-year career in less than 10 minutes. "You there?" Marcus snapped his fingers at Julian like summoning a waiter. "I asked you a question. Where is Chef Laurent?" Julian's jaw tightened imperceptibly. Around him, his brigade held their collective breath. Pastry chef Rebecca's hands stilled over her chocolate work. Garde-manger specialist Thomas stopped mid-dice. Even the dishwashers in the back corner went quiet. "There is no Chef Laurent," Julian said calmly, his eyes still on the sauce. 80 seconds. "Don't play games with me." Marcus stepped closer, his expensive Italian shoes clicking on the kitchen's tile floor. "I have a reservation at 7:30. I expect to meet the actual chef, not whatever assistance program you're participating in." The words hung in the air like smoke.
Assistance program.
Antoine moved forward, ready to intervene. But Julian caught his eye and shook his head once. A silent command that every member of his brigade understood. "Stand down. I've got this." "Sir," Julian said, finally looking up. His dark eyes met Marcus's pale ones with unsettling calm. "I appreciate your passion for culinary excellence, but right now, I need to finish this sauce, or the venison course for table 12 will be delayed. Perhaps you could wait in the dining room." Marcus's face flushed red. "I will not be dismissed by the help. Get your superior. Now." 60 seconds. That's when the kitchen door swung open, and the person who entered changed everything. Linda Hartwell, one of Manhattan's most powerful restaurant investors, swept into the kitchen with her usual entitled energy. She'd invested $2 million in Maison Hayes 3 years ago, or so she thought. What she didn't know was that her investment was actually in a minority share of a subsidiary company that Julian controlled absolutely. Marcus. Linda air-kissed the critic. I didn't know you were coming tonight. How wonderful. Linda. Marcus's smile was predatory. I was just trying to find the actual chef. This person seems confused about his role. Linda glanced at Julian, and something flickered across her face. Recognition, uncertainty, but her social conditioning won out. Oh, you must be new, she said to Julian with a patronizing smile. The black staff usually works in the back. Front kitchen is for the experienced team, but it's wonderful that chef is giving you opportunities. Julian's sauce needed 40 seconds. 40 seconds, and it would be perfect. 40 seconds, and he could finish this conversation properly. Ma'am, he said quietly, I need to focus on this course. Perhaps we could speak after service, but Marcus was done being polite. No, we're going to speak now. He turned to the nearest chef, Rebecca, the pastry chef with degrees from Le Cordon Bleu and a James Beard nomination. You, get your superior. I want the real chef. Immediately. Rebecca looked at Julian. Waited. 20 seconds. What Rebecca said next made the entire kitchen go silent. Sir, Rebecca's voice was steady. You're speaking to Chef Julian Hayes, owner and executive chef of Maison Hayes. 3 Michelin stars, James Beard Award winner. And my boss. The kitchen went absolutely still. Marcus blinked. That's impossible. The owner is someone named Julian Hayes, Antoine confirmed, stepping forward. Yale School of Management, MBA. Le Cordon Bleu Paris. Trained under Chef Alain Ducasse. Opened his first restaurant at 28. This is his flagship location. Linda's face had gone pale. But the owner I invested with, the man I met, was me, Julian said quietly. The sauce was ready. He turned off the flame with practiced precision and looked up for the first time. Really looked at them. 3 years ago, I accepted your investment. $2 million for 8% non-voting shares in Hayes Hospitality Subsidiary Corp. The paperwork is in the office if you'd like to review it. Marcus Thornton, for the first time in his 30-year career, was speechless. Julian wiped his hands on a kitchen towel with deliberate care. Mr. Thornton, I recognize you from your column photo. I've read your work for years. And Ms. Hartwell, your investment has generated a 340% return over 3 years. You're welcome. He moved to the pass, where tonight's venison course waited. With practiced grace, he plated the dish. The demi-glace, drizzled with the precision of a painter. Microgreens placed with architectural intent. This is my kitchen, Julian continued, his voice never rising above conversational level. These are my recipes. This is my vision. And you just called me the help in my own restaurant. The silence lasted exactly 7 seconds. Then Marcus made the mistake that would end everything. This is ridiculous, Marcus sputtered. Black chefs don't earn 3 Michelin stars. This must be some kind of diversity initiative. Quota filling. I want to speak to the real ownership. The kitchen erupted. You want to see real ownership? Antoine pulled out his phone. Pull up the business registry. Hayes Restaurant Group. 47 locations across 12 countries. Valuation $340 million. Founder and CEO, Dr. Julian Hayes. Culinary doctorate from the Culinary Institute of America. Want me to keep going? Julian raised a hand. Julian, it's fine. But it wasn't fine. Nothing about this was fine. Rebecca spoke up, her voice shaking with controlled rage. I turned down offers from Daniel Boulud and Thomas Keller to work here. You know why? Because Chef Hayes is the most innovative culinary mind of our generation. He's rewriting French cuisine. He's proving that excellence has no color. Chef Hayes gave me my first shot when every French kitchen in Paris turned me away, added Thomas, the Colombian garde-manger specialist. He saw talent where others saw my accent. One by one, the brigade spoke up. 12 chefs, 12 stories of opportunity, mentorship, and excellence. And through it all, Julian stood at the pass, perfectly still, perfectly calm, perfectly devastating in his quiet authority. But what came next made even his own staff gasp in shock. Julian pulled out his phone with deliberate precision. One call, that's all it would take. Robert, it's Julian. I need you to pull up the Culinary Excellence magazine file. Yes, the advertising contracts. All 12 of our restaurants. That's $4.7 million annually in advertising spend. I want it all canceled, effective immediately. Marcus's face went from red to white. And Robert, call our attorneys. I want a formal statement prepared about discriminatory conduct by their senior critic. We'll be pulling our participation from their annual awards ceremony. Let me know when Thornton's editor calls. Julian ended the call and looked directly at Marcus. Mr. Thornton, you came to judge my food, but first you judged me. You saw a black man in a kitchen and assumed I was inferior, assumed I needed an assistance program, assumed I couldn't possibly be the chef. He picked up the venison plate with its perfect sauce, the sauce Marcus had interrupted him from finishing. This dish represents 8 years of refinement. The demi-glace alone takes 4 days to prepare. The venison is from a farm I personally selected after visiting 43 different suppliers. The garnish is from my hydroponic garden, where I grow varieties you can't find anywhere else in North America. Julian walked toward Marcus, the plate held steady. You will never taste this dish, because you're not here to judge food. You're here to judge people. And I don't serve people who can't see past their prejudices. That's when Linda Hartwell said something that made every phone in the kitchen come out. Julian, you're being completely unreasonable, Linda stammered. Marcus made an honest mistake. Anyone could have assumed. Assumed what? Julian's voice cut like a knife. That a black man in a kitchen must be the help? That excellence requires cultural refinement that people like me don't possess? Those were Mr. Thornton's exact words in his review of Chef Marcus Samuelson's restaurant last year. Marcus's eyes widened. You read that? I read everything, Mr. Thornton. I study my industry. I know that black chefs receive Michelin stars at rates 73% lower than white chefs with identical training and comparable food. I know that investors like Ms. Hartwell are 40% more likely to fund white-owned restaurants despite similar business plans. I know that critics like you use coded language to dismiss excellence when it comes from people who look like me. Julian set the plate down on the counter. But here's what you don't know. I'm not just a chef. I'm not just a restaurant owner. I'm the founder of Hayes Hospitality Group. We operate 47 restaurants worldwide. We lease kitchen equipment to over 200 establishments. We supply specialty ingredients to Michelin-starred restaurants across 3 continents. And we run the largest culinary scholarship program for minority chefs in the world. He pulled out a leather portfolio from beneath the counter, the same one he'd been reviewing earlier, when Marcus first interrupted him. This portfolio contains documentation of systematic discrimination in food criticism, restaurant investment, and industry awards. 6 years of research, 847 case studies, statistical analysis showing racial bias in everything from Michelin Guide selections to James Beard Award nominations. What Julian revealed next would shake the entire culinary world. Rebecca's phone was already out, live streaming to her 300,000 Instagram followers. The video caption, "Racist food critic gets exposed by the chef he tried to humiliate." You won't believe what happens next. Within 3 minutes, the live stream had 12,000 viewers. Julian continued, his voice steady and devastating. Tomorrow morning, I'm releasing a comprehensive report on systematic racism in fine dining. It includes specific examples of critics like Mr. Thornton using coded language to disparage black-owned establishments. It documents investment patterns showing that restaurants with black ownership receive 60% less funding than comparable white-owned ventures. It proves that Michelin star ratings correlate more strongly with owner demographics than food quality. Marcus was backing toward the door. You can't prove. I can prove everything, Julian interrupted, because I documented it all. Every dismissive review, every cultural refinement comment, every time a critic praised authentic food from white chefs while calling identical dishes from black chefs. Trying too hard to be sophisticated, he opened the portfolio. Inside were hundreds of pages of research, cross-referenced and annotated. Mr. Thornton, your review patterns show that you give Black-owned restaurants an average rating of 3.2 stars, while white-owned restaurants with comparable food quality average 4.1 stars. That's a 28% disparity that cannot be explained by food quality, service, or ambiance. It can only be explained by bias. Linda was scrolling through her phone frantically. Julian, I had no idea you were... That I was black? Julian's smile was cold. Miss Hartwell, we met 3 times before you invested. Each time, I wore a tailored suit. I presented detailed business plans. I showed you financial projections. But you didn't really see me, did you? You saw our opportunity to invest in diverse businesses for your portfolio. Did you even remember my name before tonight? The silence answered for her. Then Julian's phone rang. The caller ID made everyone in the kitchen freeze. Excuse me, Julian answered. Yes, Governor Martinez. Thank you for returning my call. Yes, the research is complete. Tomorrow at 10 a.m., the press conference. The James Beard Foundation has agreed to co-host. Yes, we're expecting major media coverage. He listened for a moment, his expression unreadable. Thank you, Governor. Your support means everything. Civil rights legislation in the restaurant industry is long overdue. When he hung up, the kitchen was absolutely silent. Rebecca's live stream now had 45,000 viewers. Someone had posted the video to Twitter, where it was already being shared by verified food journalists and celebrity chefs. Julian turned back to Marcus and Linda. Tomorrow morning, I'm announcing the formation of the Culinary Justice Initiative, backed by the James Beard Foundation, the Governor's Office, and 37 other Michelin-starred chefs who are tired of watching talent get dismissed because of skin color. He pulled out another document from his portfolio. We're proposing new guidelines for restaurant criticism that require blind evaluation processes. We're launching an investment fund specifically for minority-owned culinary ventures. And we're creating an industry-wide bias reporting system. Marcus had gone completely white. You're trying to destroy my career. No, Mr. Thornton. You destroyed your own career the moment you walked into my kitchen and decided I wasn't good enough to be here. I'm just making sure it's documented. But what Julian did next shocked even his own brigade. Julian walked to the kitchen door and held it open. Mr. Thornton, you're welcome to stay for dinner at a table in the dining room where guests belong. You can order anything on the menu, and I will personally prepare it with the same excellence I show every guest who respects this kitchen. The offer hung in the air like a challenge. But if you choose to stay, you'll be eating food prepared by the black chef you tried to dismiss. You'll be experiencing the vision you called a diversity initiative. And tomorrow, when I announce the Culinary Justice Initiative, you'll have a choice. Join us in creating a fairer industry, or be remembered as the critic who couldn't see past his prejudices. Marcus stood frozen, caught between pride and the dawning realization of what he'd just lost. Linda found her voice first. Julian, Dr. Hayes, I want to apologize. I should have. Ms. Hartwell, your investment helped build this restaurant. For that, I'm grateful. But if you'd like to remain involved with Hayes Hospitality Group, I suggest you attend tomorrow's press conference and decide whether you're committed to equity or just portfolio diversity. The door to the dining room opened, and the maitre d' appeared. Chef Hayes, Table 12 is asking about their venison course. Julian picked up the plate he'd been working on, now slightly cooled but still perfect. Tell them it's coming, and tell them I apologize for the delay. We had some unexpected guests in the kitchen. He turned to his brigade. Team, we have a full house tonight. Marcus, take over the sauce station. Rebecca, I need your desserts ready in 20 minutes. Antoine, let's show everyone why we earned those 3 stars. The kitchen erupted into motion, a perfectly choreographed dance of culinary excellence. As Julian moved back to the pass, he caught Rebecca's eye. She was still streaming. 67,000 viewers now. Chef, she said quietly. The world is watching. Julian smiled. A real smile this time. Good. Let them watch excellence in action. 6 hours later, Something happened that no one saw coming. Service ended at 11:47 p.m. Every table served perfectly. Every dish executed flawlessly. Zero complaints. Standing ovation from table 7 when they learned they'd been served by the chef himself. Marcus Thornton had stayed, sat at table 4, ordered the tasting menu, ate every bite in silence. When Julian finally emerged from the kitchen at midnight, still in his chef whites, Marcus was waiting. Dr. Hayes, the critic, stood, his voice strained. I don't know how to write an honest review, Julian said simply. That's all any chef wants. Honest evaluation, based on the food, not the person who made it. Marcus nodded slowly. The venison it was the best thing I've eaten in 30 years of criticism. The technique, the balance, the innovation, it was flawless. Thank you, but you're not going to forgive me, are you? Julian considered this. Mr. Thornton, forgiveness is personal. What I'm offering is professional accountability. Tomorrow, you'll have a choice. Acknowledge your bias and join the reform movement, or retire from criticism. Either way, the industry is changing. He pulled out a business card. Simple, elegant, devastating. Dr. Julian Hayes, founder and CEO, Hayes Hospitality Group, Culinary Justice Initiative. If you choose reform, call this number. We need critics who understand their power and are willing to use it fairly. If you choose retirement, I wish you well. But either way, tomorrow the world learns that excellence has no color. What happened the next morning made headlines in 47 countries. The James Beard Foundation conference room was packed. Journalists from the New York Times, Washington Post, CNN, Food and Wine, and 30 other outlets. Celebrity chefs filled the back rows. The governor stood to Julian's left, the head of the James Beard Foundation to his right. Julian stepped to the podium in a tailored charcoal suit. Every inch the CEO he'd always been but rarely had to prove.
Good morning, my name is Dr. Julian Hayes. Last night I was called to help in my own 3 Michelin star restaurant by a prominent food critic who couldn't believe a black man could be the chef.
The room erupted in murmurs. Cameras flashed. This morning, I'm announcing the formation of the Culinary Justice Initiative, a comprehensive reform movement backed by 37 Michelin-starred chefs, the James Beard Foundation, and legislative support from Governor Martinez. He pulled up a presentation. Statistics filled the screen. The same data he'd shown Marcus the night before. For too long, excellence in our industry has been measured through a biased lens. Black chefs receive Michelin stars at 73% lower rates than white chefs with identical training. Investment in minority-owned restaurants is 60% lower than comparable white-owned ventures. And critical reviews use coded language that dismisses innovation from chefs of color, while praising identical techniques from white chefs. The statistics kept coming. Undeniable. Devastating. Meticulously documented. Today, we're proposing the Hayes Protocol for Culinary Equity. The screen changed to show a detailed policy framework, blind evaluation processes for major restaurant awards, mandatory bias training for food critics, investment funds specifically for minority-owned culinary ventures, and industry-wide reporting systems for discrimination. He paused, letting the weight of the proposal settle. Last night, a critic told me I must be part of an assistance program because he couldn't imagine a black chef running a Michelin-starred kitchen. This morning, I'm announcing that Hayes Hospitality Group is committing $50 million to create the world's largest culinary assistance program for minority chefs who deserve the opportunities that others receive automatically. The room exploded in applause. But this isn't just about money. This is about changing hearts and minds. This is about proving that excellence has no color, no gender, no accent. Excellence is excellence, and it's time our industry recognized that. Then Julian did something that shocked even the governor. I'd like to introduce someone, Julian said, gesturing to the side door. Marcus Thornton entered. He looked 20 years older than the confident critic who'd walked into Maison Hayes's kitchen the night before. The room went silent. Mr. Thornton has something to say. Marcus stepped to the podium with shaking hands. My name is Marcus Thornton. I've been a food critic for 30 years. And last night I revealed myself to be exactly what Dr. Hayes has been documenting. A biased gatekeeper who judged chefs by their skin color instead of their skill. His voice cracked. I walked into Dr. Hayes's kitchen and dismissed him as the help. I suggested he was part of an assistance program. I demanded to speak to the real chef. And in doing so, I revealed that my 30 years of criticism had been compromised by unconscious and sometimes conscious bias. The confession hung in the air. This morning, I'm announcing my retirement from food criticism. But before I go, I want to apologize publicly to every chef of color whose work I dismissed, every restaurant I underrated, every talent I failed to recognize because I couldn't see past my own prejudices. He pulled out a thick envelope. Dr. Hayes, this contains my complete review archives, 30 years of criticism. I want you to use them as case studies in your bias training programs. If my mistakes can teach the next generation of critics to be better, then maybe my career won't have been a complete waste. The room was absolutely silent. Julian accepted the envelope. Mr. Thornton, accountability is the first step toward change. Thank you for your courage. 6 months later, the transformation was complete. The Culinary Justice Initiative had processed 847 bias complaints in its first 6 months. 12 prominent critics had retired or undergone extensive retraining. 8 major investment funds had adopted blind evaluation processes. The Michelin Guide announced new diversity requirements for its inspection teams. But the real change happened in kitchens across the world. A young black chef in Atlanta got her first Michelin star, and the review never mentioned her race, only her flawless technique. A Nigerian-American restaurateur in San Francisco received $3 million in funding after 15 rejections from traditional investors. A James Beard Award went to a Haitian chef whose cultural refinement was finally recognized as culinary genius instead of ethnic confusion. Julian's phone buzzed with a message from Marcus Thornton. New article published. What I Got Wrong, a critic's reckoning with 30 years of bias. Thank you for giving me the chance to get it right. That evening, Julian stood in his kitchen at Maison Hayes, training a new cohort of young chefs through a scholarship program. 12 students, 7 were minorities. All were brilliant. Chef Hayes, one student asked, what do you say to critics who still think Michelin stars should only go to French chefs? Julian smiled. I say, taste the food. If you can taste my skin color in that demi-glace, you're not a critic, you're just prejudiced. Excellence speaks for itself. We just needed to make sure people were listening. The brigade laughed, worked, created, and somewhere across the city, in 47 restaurants across 12 countries, the Hayes Protocol was changing everything. The real power of this story, this isn't just about one chef exposing one critic. This is about systematic change that starts when someone with power decides to use it wisely. Julian Hayes didn't need to raise his voice. He didn't need to seek revenge. He just needed to document the truth, maintain his excellence, and wait for the right moment to demand accountability.